Right, so today I'm going to show you how to groom a setter head. This is Shelby. She's 9.5 and she's looking quite scruffy. So we're going to deal with the head and different ways of clearing the head, and then we'll look at tidying up the ears and how to set them lower, and we're also going to tidy up the neck here. There's a few ways she can do it. She's never been a show dog, but I still like to do her same way as I would do a dog that if I was to show it, and it will totally change her expression, and you want the nice kind looking setter and not a scruffy one. So we're going to start with the head, and this is the thing you can do when a dog is dirty. I usually did all my clipping and start grooming about a week before the show, and you can split it. She's quite dirty now. She's not been bathed for quite 2 or 3 months and quite overgrown, and it's something you can do with also a dog sitting down or laying down. So like her, she's an old girl, she can't stand for too long, so she can sit or lay down later. She might be able to. So we're going to start with just giving her a brush where we're going to work on, and especially the ears, because they tend to get quite knotted, especially at the back of the ear there. So you want to brush out all the knots. She has been clipped a few months ago here, so she hasn't got very long hair there, but the ears do get knotted, and if you got knotted ears, you'll brush through the ends first so that you don't rip out a lot of hair. She hasn't got very much there, and then you can brush through and make sure there's no knots in the ears. So I'm going to brush one, and from the inside as well, especially if your dog's got thicker ears, and there. And we'll also do the other one. First we'll brush through the tips, and then we'll brush the whole way through. And behind the ear, but she's not knotted there because her hair is quite short. And we just check. Sit, Shelby, sit, sit. And we'll just check with the comb, because your slicker brush can go through the whole ear, but that doesn't mean you don't have knots in there. So comb's going through nicely, so she's all knot free. And we're going to trim the ends as well later. So, but we're going to start with the head. She'll be staying. Right, lay down. Lay down. No, you're going to fall off. You're going to fall off. So I'll just move her. Good girl. Good girl. There you go. Stay. And I use one of these gardening gloves, which have rubber tips, and they help to grip the hair. Now, if your setter only has little hairs like this, I would just be pulling it out with your fingers like that, and it's all nicely coming out. Now, you can do this with your dog, it doesn't hurt them, and you can do this with them when they're cuddling up with you on the sofa and you're watching TV and they put their head in your lap. You can just pull these hairs out little bit by bit. So we'll keep going like this. Now, some setters will grow a really thick curly bush like a bird's nest on their heads. Now for that, that will take a long time, stripping like this. You can do it with fingers, bit by bit. You will get some flakes when you're stripping and pulling hair, but that's completely normal and that's fine. It's always better to do it on a dirty coat. You don't want to do it on a freshly bathed, silky smooth coat because you won't be able to grip so well. So, and she had her head clipped, shaved for the first 5 years of her life, and as you can see, she's not growing any. She used to grow a really curly bush on her head, but not now. So it really what you have. So you want to take everything that would stick out, and you're pulling backwards, but I have stripped heads in every direction if it's easier, and I've never had hairs growing curly, or if they are already curly, then it doesn't matter whether you strip that way or sideways, because your hair's growing in all directions anyway. But stripping it with the direction how you want it to grow will help the hair grow that way. And if you just stay on top of the head and just pull few ones out as you see them growing back in, you can stay on top of the head. Now, if you have a really curly and thick hair, she doesn't have it, but I'll show you. And now this is a Coat King, and quite a controversial tool. Some people say never use it on a setter. I have used it on parts, and also it depends on the type of a coat. And she needs to be really Coat King properly because of her coat. But if you've got a really thick head, so we'll just pretend she has a really thick hair on the head, then you can just get your Coat King and it will really grip, and you'll just run it through like that, and it will start pulling all your hair out. And then you can go sideways, I go backwards as well. That will remove a large side of that. Hers is not coming out because she's quite fine on her head, but I've done it. People say don't do this, but I've done it on the show dogs, and you can strip a head really nicely, and there's no harm in doing it against the hair growth as well on the head. I wouldn't do it on the body. So, and where you can come a little bit where the back of the skull, where it joins the neck, just to thin it out, and then we'll tidy it up a bit later. And also what I like to use the Coat King for is all this really thick hair that grows between the head and the ear, and it creates a big bulk, and it's making her ears appear set higher than they really are. So we can thin this out a little bit. Again, exactly where the ear meets the skull, just a little bit there, and on this side. And we'll just take the main bulk out. It will then make the scissoring and clipping a little bit easier when we clip the ear and blend it into the head. So as you can see, her head's now looking a lot better. And that was it. We will then take all the back of the head later, and obviously her neck is not groomed at all, it's really thick, so how the end result will look there will depend later on the neck, but we're just going to do the head for now. Right, so we've got the top of the head done on her, and now we're going to start clipping. Obviously we're going to clip this. Not every setter grows these little fuzzies. Now she would be too sensitive to pull them out. A little bit there on her jaw, so I'm just going to clip that off, and then we'll clip the neck. And also the ears. So for that, I will, I've got my clippers, and normally clippers come with, some cheaper clippers when you buy them, they will come with a 10 blade, which will leave hair 1.5 millimeter long. Now I learned with the 10 blade, and that is very, should we stay? That is very short, and you would never clip that short before the show. I tend to do it a week or two before the show, but I will leave the 10 blade for now. You can also use a 7 FC, 7 fine cut. That would leave 3.2 mil hair, it will be shorter when we go in reverse, which is what I do. We go reverse on the ears and the neck. And my new blade is 8.5, so I'm hoping that will give me a much better trim. I've not used this one for the setters yet, so this will be first one. Now, a lot of people generally just tend to scissor this. As you can see, she was clipped in the past. Now, if that hair was long, it would grow from the head all the way down, but you would end up with this, even though it sticks out now because it's short, even if it were longer, it would still create a really ear that sticks out too far away from the skull, and thinning it out is harder. So a lot of people don't like the clip ears, the spaniel ear as I call it, where the 1/3 of the ear is, roughly a third, it depends on the ear itself, is shaved and the rest is left long. Now I like it clipped even on the pets, and I tend to do the shorter 10 blade one because it will last longer. It will be a little bit of a shock, a little bit too short for the first week or so, but once the hair starts growing back in, it's just nicer. So I clip the ears, and it might be strange first doing it and looking at your dog at first with the clipped ears, but once the hair starts growing back, you are going to want to usually clip it again. It's just much better than a scissored look, because you haven't got the thickness on the sides of the ears there. So you could scissor it, and same for the neck. A lot of people will scissor the neck in. Now, you could do it, but I again prefer, even on the pets, to clear it out nicely. And you see, she's always, for 9 years, she's had a neck clipped and the top of her head and her ears, and it hasn't changed her hair quality or how it grows. It's all the same as scissored. So clippers are not going to damage your hair or make it grow back different. It will grow back as it were always. So we're going to start on the ear. Now, if your dog tosses around quite a lot, what you can do, if you've got one of these bars for your table, this one's a bit too short arm, but you can teach your dog, this one's a bit short, you can teach them to put their heads in the loop. This bar's a bit too short, so I'll just show you. So if you had your dog on the bar, you can let them support the head like so. So it teaches them nicely to hold it still, and it gives you 2 hands. Shall we sit? Good girl. That's it. And it does give you 2 hands to work on a dog, so you can do that. And I don't tighten the loop because I don't want to make them uncomfortable. So they're just going to rest their muzzle on the loop there, and you can do it that way. Not yet, darling. Right, sit. She'll sit down. Now, I'm trying to get her to sit as much as possible because she's older and she will get tired. So, now, when you go to clip, grab your ear hair don't just pick up the ear, because when you get near the clippers, this hair can get into your blade and you will just take a big chunk out of it. So always hold your feathers out the way, and I will start clearing out all of this. Now this would be quite long, and there's a neck. So we're going to clear out this little ear rosette there, and take this bulk out there to make her ears lay nice and flat against the skull. So good girl. Stay. So it took the bulk out there. Now we will scissor that into the skull later and skim a little bit more there when we come to the neck as well, and the back of the ear. So now we're going to do, should we turn a little bit that way? Good. So how her ear finishes here. Now how low you clip, it's entirely up to you. Because she hasn't got very thick ear feather, I wouldn't clip her too low, because then she would lose a lot of it. When you have really thick ears, you can clip a bit lower, but everything will depend on the final look when viewed from profile. That's why I trim the ears, not because I want to, but because I want to achieve a nice expression with the ears laying flat and nice and low without all this junk here. So normally you can clip a little bit, and then you can always move the line lower if you need to. So she has got her line there where she's been clipped before. So but if you've got all of this hair long and you want to make your first line, now don't start there where the skull, where the ear meets the skull, because you need to leave a bit of room for blending. So you can just, they have a little, like a shelf there, so you could just take the bulk out first this way, just a little bit to make your lines like this, and then you'll achieve something like that. Right, so I just took the bulk off so I can see what I'm working with. Now, sometimes some people leave this front curl there and don't clip this edge of the ear over here. I don't always clip it, sometimes I do. Generally, this is all scissored into the ear set. So we're just gonna leave this front fold, and now that I've removed some bulk off there, now I will start going in reverse. Now, in reverse clipping, it's always neater. It always clips shorter than what your blade says. And I'll do that by folding the ear over my finger where I want to cut. Hold your feather out the way, and I will just make my first lines, and I'll go against. Now, you don't want to go clipping past that shelf, so you want to go up like that and leave this bit there, because we need that for scissoring. If you clip all the way high there, much higher, and you were to go up to there where your clipper stops, where the ear joins, you will then end up with a half moon cut out hole like that, and you won't be able to blend it in nicely. That's also why I don't clip dogs before the show, day before, but leave it a week, because even if you make a mistake, it'll grow back just enough to be able to fix it. But we are stopping where her eel naturally stops there. And on the back here, right, we'll continue clipping now. On the back of the ear, you can clip all the way up to where it joins, and we'll tidy up a little bit there. And then we're just going to take some, then you'll brush what you've clipped out. Shall here, darling. And then we'll just tidy up a bit more in there. So. We want to take off a little bit more there. That sticks out. Now, without really joining it into the neckline, it's a bit hard to tidy that up in there. I'll just skim that a little bit there. So now we've got the ear clipped. On her, I didn't go too low, but probably will take it lower to where the widest point of the ear is. So I still want to take off a little bit more there. Now clippers are also safer to use than scissors, because you're not going to cut your dog. So we're just going to tidy up a bit more there. Right. So that will do for now. And now we're going to get our blending or thinning scissors. Now these are 5.5-inch samurai thinners. They are barber scissors, and I love using these because they can blend better than any other scissors I've used before. So now we're going to tackle this ear set here and how to lower it and tidy this up here. We'll finish up here when we get down to the neck. So I'll have her lay down now because she's a bit tall. So should we lay down? Lay down. Good girl. Right. So, and we need to blend where we clipped into the neck there, and thin this out and get rid of that. So now I don't blend this way, because what I found ends up happening that you just move in your line, this line there, you'll just end up moving it higher and higher. So I blend in that way and take off all of that. Stacia. So you want to really stretch out the ear, put your fingers in there and hold the ear out nicely, because you don't want to cut them. It's very lumpy bumpy there, so you don't want to cut them. What I will do first is thin this out a little bit by putting my scissors into the coat and just making a few cuts like that and start brushing out. Now you can do this even if you haven't clipped the ear. So you just make a few cuts to thin it out and take the bulk out. And then you just brush it below. And as you can see, her ear is coming a bit lower. And then we need to also tidy this up. And we'll do that. Right, check. Look at that. I don't know if you can see. Could you come this way, please? While I do this, so that you can see what I'm doing, and we're going to work on that. And you want to really stretch out so that you don't. We'll just remove that. And she's still quite thick here, so we will thin that out by putting the scissors in and then brush that out, and also in there. And you can see it's starting to lay a lot flatter that we took the bulk out of there. And then we'll go station. We'll take all these bits out. Now some dogs you might find have very fine hair here, so how much you take really depends. And we'll just tidy that up. And also this hair that comes out from inside the ear, so once she puts it down, you don't want it to stick out, so we'll take some of that out. Oh no. And now I'll start taking that out. And again, you want to stretch out the edge of the ear. And if you come this way, and we'll keep blending the clip, and there it is. And we'll just keep going. At the back of the ear, you can remove all of that bulb that generally you find is very knotted, so that can come out behind the ear. You'll never see it, and you don't need it there. So we can take that out. And we still need to thin it out more. So if you come from the front, and you can see we're already dropping the ear compared to this look. It's already looking neater, but we need to take a bit more there. Now you You can clip the front edge with the clippers, but scissoring it in can give a little bit more natural look. And we want to and we still need to take some of that. Now remember, I would always do ears not the day before the show, so as the hair starts coming back, you won't see skin, but you'll get a really nice velvety finish that will look like really short hair, like here on her muzzle, so it's not going to look clipped. I would never do this yet on a dog that's going in a ring the next day. And that's the beauty of doing setters, because you can do a lot of your grooming on the days leading up to shows. So you don't have to, before the show, the night before the show, all I have to do is just bath and dry the dog and maybe tidy up a few bits. Now I see, to clear up this little patch of hair, I will put my 10 blade on, which is the really short one. Normally, like I said, I would clip with the 10 blade the whole dog, the ear, as we did with the 8.5, because 10 blade will just clear that out a little bit nicer because it's shorter. Here's you. And then we're going to start, we'll blend this more in when we clip the neck. So, and you repeat the same. We'll just tidy up the edge of the ear. I always tip the ears because I think it does help them grow into length. And you don't want them looking scruffy looking. So, head up, Shell. Head up. So you'll just fold your ear in half like they would naturally lay. You've got it brushed through. You run your fingers just to the end. I've got curves for now, but and you'll just take a straight line. And some dogs look good with the straight line cutting, but usually what you can do, she has really thin ears there, so there's nothing pretty I can do with the ends of it. But what you can do when you've got thicker hair is to pick your ear up, she'll be head up, and then you can slightly go into round the edges on the back. I haven't got the hair here, so I can only pretend I'm cutting, and slightly come up, and you do it on the outside, and you would also do it from the inside if you've got a thicker ear on hers. There's not a lot I can really do with this ear, because she has very fine feather, so it's not gonna, I just usually just do a straight line on her just to take the ugly tips off, and she'll be fine. So if we come to the front, and we'll just compare the side that's been done compared to all this that's not been done, and that's already looking a lot better. And now we would do the same on the other side. I'm going to leave that now, and we're just going to move into the neck. And also what we do back here, she would have to have a neck stripped, which she hasn't, and tidy up the back of the head into the neck. That again, we'd have to do the neck back there a bit more. So, but we're just going to clip this. Now, what you really want to get your, Shelby, stand there, my scissors, Shelby, come forward.